We've got some guests in to talk about nutrition and diets and things of that nature. Megan Block is a registered dietitian at Prairie Lakes Healthcare. Megan, good morning.
Good morning.
And tell me who you brought along with you today.
Becky Shibley, who is also a registered dietitian at Prairie Lakes.
Thank you both for coming in. Appreciate your time. Megan, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into this line of work.
So I grew up in Florence, South Dakota on a farm with my parents. Wanting to be a dietitian originally more or less came from the farm to table. A lot of people figure the grocery store, the food that ends up in there just happens to appear on the shelves and nobody really knows where it comes from. So that's originally what led me to wanting to be a dietitian. As I did my background at SDSU, I realized that more of the clinical line of work was what I enjoyed the most. So helping patients with their current disease, making sure they're well nourished, that type of thing.
As a society as a whole, Megan, how good or poor of a job do we do when it comes to eating healthy?
That's a loaded question.
I know it is, but I needed to ask it.
Overall, I would say it's very individualized. If you look at the big picture, obviously in America itself, we have a widely growing obesity rate. Obesity is linked to like over 60 chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, all of those types of things. Due to our convenience world that we live in, where everything is fast, quick, and easy, many of our choices may not always be the best options. Most of us Americans probably don't consume adequate fruits and vegetables, so that links our growing obesity rate to all of those diseases where we have more people in the hospital for those chronic conditions.
Why does the stuff that is bad for us always taste the best? That's the thing. Everything that tastes good is bad, and the stuff that's good doesn't taste as good. I don't know how that works.
The stuff that's good can still taste good. It's just a matter of maybe varying up the way that you're cooking it, the different seasonings and spices that you're using. Once upon a time, our parents probably steamed our vegetables to an absolute mush, and nobody enjoys that.
No.
So if you would instead roast them or flavor them with some crunch and some different spices and herbs, that's going to help bring out those flavors.
You talked about fast food, and we live in a society where we want instant gratification with a lot of things, and including when it's time to eat. We want it done, and we want to have it ready, but that's not always good for you, is it?
Everything is okay in moderation. There's always a time and a place for those quick, easy, fast, convenient meals or on the go. It's just depending on what your lifestyle consists of. But preparing ahead of time and doing some meal planning. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to spend an entire day in your kitchen preparing all of your meals so that it's all lined up in your fridge and all you have to do is heat it up. But even just figuring out your main entree for those 3 or 4 or 5 days of the week and having all of the groceries that you need in your home so that when you get home from work or activities or whatever you're doing, you have all of those ingredients there so that you know what you're making. You just have to prepare it, or maybe you started the preparation the night before and you just have to finish it.
Sure.
So that can help to prevent you from hitting those fast food restaurants or the gas stations or those types of foods if you just help prepare yourself a little bit more at home as well. So meal planning can be beneficial. It doesn't have to be as extravagant as what some people make it out to be.
What are processed foods, and are they bad for us?
So processed foods would be almost anything that has to sit on a shelf for a certain period of time. Things like your canned products, your boxed products, those types of things. Again, everything is okay in moderation. Your processed foods are going to be higher in sodium and those types of things, which again can be linked to high blood pressure and heart disease. But if I join all of the canned products together and tell you that they're bad for you and you shouldn't consume them, that's going to include your canned beans and your canned vegetables and those types of things as well. So those are good for you. They do make things like no salt added canned vegetables or canned beans, and you are still able to enjoy things like canned soups and stuff. It's just a matter of paying attention to some of those nutrients and try and limiting that salt intake.
Randy, how's your diet?
No, not good.
Not good.
Last listening to this.
On the seafood diet, you see food, you eat it?
Kind of. My biggest thing is in between meals. It could be Maybe I don't start enough to make the metabolism work right away. I wait
Mm-hmm.
too long to eat, and that's a factor too, isn't it?
It is. Everybody that talks about wanting to lose weight or maintain their weight, their biggest thing is wanting to restrict their calorie intake, which in a sense probably has to occur. But if you restrict your calorie intake too much, you're at risk of nutritional deficiencies and slowing down that metabolism. We still have to eat adequately in order to give our body the energy that it needs to burn what it needs to burn, but we don't want to restrict too severely that we're causing ourselves other difficulties as well.
Should we talk to Becky a little bit? Becky, good morning.
Morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this line of work.
Yep. Yeah. Similar to Megan, I also grew up on a farm just south of Watertown here. Went to SDSU. I knew I wanted to work in healthcare. I enjoy helping people and just took some general courses, took a nutrition course and fell in love with that. So yeah, here I am.
We talked with Megan, asked her a bunch of questions. Any thoughts on what you heard from her?
I agree with her.
That's good. And she touched on this a little bit, but some of the bad health conditions that can result from a bad diet, right? What are some of the things that you see as a registered dietitian, nutrition-based traps that people fall into that lead to maybe some debilitating health conditions for them?
Yeah, I think of one big thing, and it's with Nutrition Month. This month, the theme is Food Connects Us. You develop your relationship with food from the time you're a young child throughout your whole life. I think even as we're raising kids, we're being raised, like those habits, what we see, what we learn sticks with us through your whole life.
Sure.
And there's certainly things throughout life too that can affect your eating habits as well. We always tie in stress too. Managing stress is very important. So it's not just looking at what foods you're buying, what foods you're eating, but being mindful about why you're eating, why you're choosing those foods. Are you eating because you're hungry? Are you eating because you're bored, you're stressed, you're tired? Taking all that into account as well.
Megan mentioned that not necessarily everything is bad for you as long as you're consuming it in moderation. So how do we know what moderation is? How much is too much? How much is not enough?
Yeah, part of that gets back to being mindful of your hunger cues and your full signals. So listening to our bodies is a big part of it. If you're eating a meal to a point, you leave the table and you're miserably feeling stuffed, then you know you ate too much. Ask yourself do you ever feel hungry throughout the day? Sometimes we just eat because the food's there, not because our body's telling us that it's time to eat. So really getting back in touch with those hunger and full signals as well can help, which is a challenge.
There
Yeah.
are like a million different diets out there. And I always get a kick out of the diet plans that say that it doesn't require any exercise at all, but you're magically just going to start shedding off pounds. So if someone needs to lose some weight, do they work with a dietitian on a meal plan that will allow them maybe to lose weight but do it in a healthy way as opposed to an unhealthy way, if that's possible?
Yep, and Megan said too, each case is individualized. So what's one individual might want to work on changing, the next individual might already be doing that, but there's another thing that they'd want to work on. So we do a lot with our outpatient setting and our Core 4 program as far as goal setting and setting SMART goals. So they're realistic for the patient as well.
If you visit a doctor, one of the things that they can tell you is what your BMI, your body mass index is. What does that mean? What does that tell us?
Yep, so basically it's just looking at where your weight is at for how tall you are. So we don't get taller as an adult. Eventually we get a little bit shorter, right? So it's the weight that plays a factor into that body mass index. We also like to look at a body composition, which we do these tests at the hospital, but it does break down like how much of your body weight is fat mass and how much is muscle mass. So that kind of puts it into perspective a little bit more than just looking at a person's height and weight. Someone might have a large amount of lean body mass, and it's going to show their body mass index is higher, but it's a good, healthy weight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about people that maybe have bad eating habits and they get to a point where they're too heavy. On the flip side of that, do you folks ever, in your registered dietitian world, work with people who have eating disorders that are underweight? and you need to work with them on a healthy diet to gain weight and get them into a better healthy place? If so, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We see both sides of that. We probably see more of the underweight maybe in the hospital when we're seeing those patients that are admitted. What we do is evaluate them for malnutrition, so they're not getting enough food, they're not getting enough of those nutrients. Maybe they've lost a significant amount of weight, possibly related to an acute or a chronic medical condition that they have. We would work with each one of those patients on increasing calories, increasing protein. We could also see them as an outpatient too, to kind of work with them once they're feeling better out of the hospital back home on how they can improve their health status.
Megan, I want to get your take on that, because when I asked that question, you were nodding your head.
Like Becky said, those inpatients that are more or less just not getting enough nutrition, whether they're aging and their appetite isn't as great, whether they're malnourished, just to help them increase their calorie intake is, I would say, the area we probably see more often in the hospital than the overweight side of things.
When we're at the grocery store shopping, most of us don't look at the ingredients label. I know I rarely do. Should we do that, Megan? And if we do that, what should we be paying attention to on that ingredients?
So the label is a wonderful resource. It's great that it's on majority of our foods. And for almost every kind of category of food that you're looking at, those ingredients are going to vary what you want to focus on. So things like your grains, we want to focus on your fiber and your carbohydrate content, so to speak. Your fruits and vegetables, again, we're just going to push more fiber content there. Your dairy, focusing on like your lower fat. Your proteins, again, lower fat, those leaner meat options. So when you look at that label, it's always important to start at your serving size, because if you increase or if you double or triple your serving size, you're going to have to double and triple all of the nutrients down below it. So that serving size is always going to be the first area that you really want to pay attention to when you're looking at that label.
Very interesting. How many calories should we consume a day? And I would assume that's based maybe on your gender and your size, but is that a number that, I'm sure it's not the same for everyone, is it?
No, it's very individualized based on the person. It's also based on, like you said, gender, age, physical activity level, all of those things. More or less, I would say one thing to focus on is, again, not eating, I would say under 1,200 calories, because at that point you could reach a chance of not meeting nutrients and entering that nutritional deficiency category. But again, just focusing on, like Becky said, listening to your hunger and fullness cues. If your stomach starts growling, by all means, we don't want you to ignore it. We would like you to feed it. But at the same time, paying attention to your fullness cues. If your stomach starts to distend or push out towards your pants, it's letting you know that you're reaching that fullness state and maybe it's time to stop eating.
How important is it to drink a lot of water every day?
Water is important. Your hydration levels help with the overall function of your body. There is a point where you can drink too much water, but I would say more times than not, people are probably not drinking adequate water. So aiming for that 8 to 10 8-ounce glasses of water daily, or non-caffeinated, non-carbonated beverages.
Randy, any questions for our guests here?
No, you had a lot of good questions on that.
On my notes, I've got something that says Core 4 Adult Weight Management that's offered 2 times a year. What is that all about?
So Core 4 is our weight management program that we teach at the hospital. We are just wrapping up our spring/winter session right now. We take off some time through the summer, but it will restart in the fall around the September timeframe. It's a 12-week program. We discuss a variety of different topics, anything from label reading, portion sizes, and then hitting the nitty-gritty on your carbs, fat, fiber, added sugars. And then we also incorporate some physical activity into it as well.
Randy, Prairie Lakes had a booth during the farm show, and they had a bunch of different items that were set up on the table with little cups in front of each item that were reflective upon how much sugar was in each of those items. Megan,
Yes.
Did I describe that right?
You did.
And I'm looking at that going, holy cow, I would have never guessed that item had that much sugar in it. Seeing is believing. We don't think of it, do we?
And you can read the label, and it can tell you, for example, in a bottle of Mountain Dew, that there's 77 grams of added sugar. But if you tell even high school kids that they're drinking 77 grams of sugar, that means nothing to them. To show them what that actual portion size looks like, and to ask them basically, would you eat this with a spoon? Because essentially that's what they're doing. That puts things into perspective a little bit more.
Is diet soda any better than regular soda, or is it all the same?
Diet soda doesn't have the added sugar content. It has an artificial sweetener instead, and I know there's a lot of controversy around those as well. But unless you're consuming those artificial sweeteners in a very large amount, they're not considered detrimental to your health. So again, everything in moderation, but at least you're not going to get the added sugar with those diet sodas, or even the zero sugar sodas now that are definitely becoming more popular, unlike those regular sodas. For example, that bottle of Mountain Dew that is 77 grams of added sugar. For a man, they're allowed 36 grams of added sugar for the day, and for a woman, they're allowed 25 grams of added sugar for the day. So you just doubled or tripled that
One
added
bottle?
sugar. One bottle.
bottle.
Think of those that drink
My
4 to 5.
Now, I drink too much coffee. Is that okay? Is
Do you
coffee
add things to your coffee?
a little bit of creamer? A lot.
That's okay. Overall, black coffee, plain black coffee, obviously isn't going to have any added sugars or anything of the sort in it. To add a little bit of, whether it's skim milk or a fat-free creamer or a small amount of regular creamer, is definitely okay. I would say be mindful of how frequent you hit up your large coffees with all of the extra syrups and whole milks and things like that.
I don't do any of those fancy coffees. So if people have questions about their own nutritional needs or their diet, who do they call at Prairie Lakes, and how do they get the ball rolling?
They can call us. Our number at Prairie Lakes would be 605-882-7874. That would hit our office directly. And otherwise, they could always visit just the www.prairielakes.com website as well.